Today we are with Moe Brown. He's running for Congress here in the 5th Congressional District. What's up, Moe?
What's up? How you doing, Lauren?
Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So, Moe, you are a millennial.
I am.
Who's running for Congress.
I am.
How cool is that?
It's really cool.
So tell us about what that looks like for you. What's the significance of that?
You know, that's something that's not lost on me. Matter of fact, when I made the decision to run for Congress, I was very aware of who I am before I opened my mouth. Being 32 years old, being a black male from rural South Carolina who came up in a struggling household. My mom had me at 16 years of age. She actually had 4 boys by the age of 20. And all the statistics that say Moe Brown should be a failure. Moe Brown should be in jail. Moe Brown should be dead. And in some ways it did become true. My brother, he ended up dying in prison the day before I graduated. And so the person I am and those characteristic traits was not lost because coming from where I come from, the way you get out was through a few things. And that was either being an athlete, being some type of entertainer, or being a rapper. And we didn't have a lot of examples of individuals that could come in that wore suits, that had different careers, that could give you opportunities to live a really successful life. And the lack of those examples also muted or mitigated the opportunity for individuals to expand their horizons. Sports was my way out, but as I did not get the opportunity to go play in the NFL, and I had other opportunities to be a coach or anything and stuff like that that was in the sports field, for whatever reason, I was guided away from that. I wanted to take that road less traveled, to be that example for individuals where I come from, that they can be more too. So as I sit here today running for Congress, I realize the significance of that move to open up those children where I come from eyes and say you can be more. Your limitations is only what you perceive them to be. And then also being that example to open up that horizon for those folks who never thought they could be a congressman. And I've seen that return already. And so I think about that quite often, and it's a big part of why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So when you get elected, how are you going to legislate from an inclusive standpoint of being able to speak to the concerns of older voters and younger voters who are millennials also and Gen Z voters?
Yeah, well, I think just legislating as in general, we have to understand what that really means in this country. I believe that civics and the education of civics in our country is lacking. People don't really get what it means to be American. The diversity in our ideas, in our backgrounds, and our cultures is our strength. Now, where we got to get better in is that inclusion portion of that. How do we bring more people to the forefront? And as a leader, I think we got to do a better job of opening our ears and listening and reflecting the concerns of Americans as a whole. We're not meant to have the same perspective or ideals. Our founding fathers, when they drew up this democracy, they knew that an individual idea would not be greater than the sunflowers. And so I want to go back and be able to open up, whether that's Republican, whether that's an independent, whether that's a Christian, whether that's a Muslim, whether that's gay, whether that's straight, and listen to folks. And where we can find that commonality, focus on those areas. And when there's the fringes, agree where we can agree and disagree where we need to disagree, and that's okay. And so being able to do that on an elderly standpoint and being able to do that on a young person standpoint, I think that requires leadership that do legislate like that, and hopefully the policies will come that looks in return to that type of legislation.
So speaking of commonalities here, a lot of folks are excited about the fact that you're a former Gamecock athlete running for Congress, right? So what are some ways that you're going to find some intersections between football and politics to really get people excited about your race?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities to the both of them. And with football, the clear objective is to win. And when you understand what wins entails, that means that everybody that's a part of that team, whether that's the head coach down to the water boy and everyone in between, everyone has a role to do. Offensive linemen, they got to protect, the quarterback gets sacked, and the ball don't get thrown in the air, the ball is thrown in the air, the ball is not caught, and no touchdown is scored. And so that collective understanding of we must work together in order to accomplish this goal, which is winning, I think translates directly into politics. Our goal as potential legislators that I aspire to be, and the current folks that's in Congress and in the Senate and government in general, the goal is to move us towards a more perfect union and achieve the freedoms that is afforded to being American here. And so in order to really do that, you got to start at a center point of what we're trying to accomplish. And whether that's healthcare, whether that's infrastructure, whether that's immigration, whether that's education, all the topics that we're talking about on a national level and on a local level, you got to understand exactly what the issues are and what the goals and objectives are. And once you understand that, you can work backwards and say, okay, well, what do we need to do to ensure that we can get these things done? And so that understanding from football, that understanding I've gotten through working at the South Carolina Department of Commerce, and putting that into the box, I really do think that serves me well in this position to understand each one of these issues as I go out to the district and hear people talk about what's ailed them, what's keeping them up at night, and then revert that into a policy that will help alleviate some of those stresses that come along with it. And if we do that over and over again, I think we have a really good opportunity to create a lot of change here in this district and in the state.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what do you want people to know about Moe Brown as you run for office?
I was talking to one of my mom's really good friend, and she was basically like an aunt to me, and this was before I had made an announcement. And we was just going back and forth about my decision making and who I am as a person. And the way she summarized it, she said, Mo, what I hear from you is that you hate being in the box. And matter of fact, if someone tried to put you in a box, you will war against that box. And I believe that to be true. It was pretty interesting to hear her perspective on that. I'm a very intricate guy. Like, I do a lot of things. I think partially, as I stated earlier, the reason that I'm running for Congress because why not? Don't put me in a box thinking that I'm just limited to being an athlete or I'm just limited to being a businessman or whatever limitations you want to put on me. Don't do it because you really don't have a clue how deep I can go because of life experiences. And I said this to you earlier, in chasing the whys. I've chased whys continuously in my life, and that chasing of the whys have opened me up to be a better version of myself daily, and you evolve, become better daily. And because of that, I think you get a very interesting guy. I like to rap, believe it or not, recorded songs, and they're both songs, like all my friends will say, oh, that's Mo. That's exactly who Mo is. And just being who I am and being unapologetic about that. And I think that's indicative of a lot of millennials as a whole. And so I'm just a really interesting guy, and I go pretty deep in a lot of ways.
So statistically, millennials are actually less likely to be with a party. They're more likely to be independent voters. Why do you think that is, and what do you think the future of politics looks like in our country?
Well, I just think that we're more introspective. If it was really up to me, I do align mostly with the Democrats, but I would have ran as an American. I hate just going back to the question you asked previous. I'm pretty complex, and even with my political stances, I'm diverse in it too, depending on what the subject is. And so, having a two-party system, I don't think it's really reflective of us as a whole, particularly as millennials. We're high educated folks when it comes to the issues, and we pull in information from all over. We're the keep it real generation. We grew up in a time where you can have the instant fact check at the feel of your thumb, and because of that, we've been able to take in so much information. And then I think we really do believe that people should be their expression of themselves and not judge them. And because of that, putting us in one party, putting a label on a millennial is almost impossible, because I think we do see us as diverse people, and celebrating that diversity and not criticizing someone because they may be different is indicative of who we are. So as you look at politics moving forward, I do see the two-party system being challenged more and more, and that independent third party being able to potentially even win an election, maybe not this cycle, maybe not the next cycle, but looking towards 2028, the right independent coming in and looking at how you do straight ballot voting, maybe making that change, because I think because of straight ballot voting, you're going to keep the two-party system in place way more longer than maybe if you didn't have it. But ultimately, I think those are the reasons why you see millennials going towards that independency. As a Southerner, there's conservative values that you have when you grow up in, the Southern church, whether that's Pentecostal, Baptist, or whatever it is. There's certain conservative values you're going to have, but then on social issues, you're going to be way more liberal. You're going to come out and say, be you, be who you are, and what they got to do with me, bro. As long as you're not breaking the law, why can't you be the best expression of yourself? And honesty, that's what we should encourage people to be, and that's their gift back to the world. And we don't know what we're missing out by limiting people to our own insecurities and projections of them. And I think you put that into a bucket, stir it up. That's why you see a lot of folks that's on a lower age coming in as independent.
So you've had a really interesting career. Can you talk to me more about what your career has looked like over the past several years and why it propelled you into politics now?
Yeah, for sure. Even taking it back to college, everybody know I played football, but I also got a degree from the Moore School of Business. I actually double majored in finance and marketing. And my mom, she stressed education as we was growing up, and even though she had me young, she was wise beyond her years and knew the importance of being an educated person. And because of that, I went ahead and got my finance and marketing degree, challenging myself to be a student athlete. And that translated into me having the opportunity when NFL didn't work out, even though I thought I would be, but having that contingency plan in place, I was able to go to the South Carolina Department of Commerce at the age of 22 and become a project manager, which is really more of an older, mature, professional job. And there we were tasked with recruiting companies from all over the world, literally all over the world, to the state to place facilities, whether it's manufacturing, distributing, headquarters, call center, data centers. And they would say, hey, we need to be in a general region, and it could be South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, those areas, and South Carolina being one of those states competing for those jobs. We would go out and understand all the issues and all the challenges and the specifics of what they needed in order to put a facility in the state or expand the current facility. And so I got to cut my teeth real early on high-level decision-making when it comes to business. These projects that we worked on were multi-million-dollar projects, everything from $1 million up to the biggest project I worked on was $600 million. But we had billion-dollar projects as well, the Boeings of the world. And so because I got that education out of the gate, understand how executives, your CEOs, COOs, CFOs make major decisions of where we're going to put this investment. I was able to recruit nearly $1 billion of capital investment to the state. And in addition to that, CapEx jobs are associated with that, good paying jobs. Typically jobs that require you only work one to sustain yourself and your family. And when you start thinking about rural South Carolina, that makes a difference. People love focusing on the big projects, the golden goose, golden egg projects, you can say, the Boeings, the Volvos, the Amazon of the world, but ultimately the 50 jobs, the 40 jobs that's going to Chester, that's going into Lancaster, that's going into Union County, has just as big impact. Folks who didn't have a have the opportunity to have those jobs the year before, and now they able to provide a Christmas for their family or get their child shoes, new clothes for school. It gives a certain amount of confidence that comes along with it. So I got to see that on the front end of my career, and so I was very privileged and blessed to be able to have that. And then just moving forward from there, continuing that on the private side and helping companies locate now all over the country as a consultant, doing that. And I just understand the impact of what a good job can do for a person. And then in addition to that, just understanding the thought process of what communities need to do in order to position themselves to be able to get these jobs, to come and locate there. And so those are things I want to bring to the 11 counties that we have here in my district, helping with that thought process to better position jobs to come to these areas. In addition to that, I've served on about 10 different boards. I think, I forget, it's been a lot. It was about double digits of boards. And being around seasoned professionals and hearing their thought and seeing something like the University of South Carolina, where I served as a board of visitor for 6 years, how decisions are made to move that university forward, give you a great purview of how things work as well. And so all those things in a bucket, I think has prepared me for this position to go and legislate on behalf of the people here in the 5th District.
Absolutely, and that's so exciting. So how can people get involved with your campaign? How can they help you?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked that question. The big thing right now is early money. In the infancy of a campaign, you got to raise about $2.5 million in order to win a campaign. The guy that I'm running against, Ralph Norman, he's a multi-millionaire. He can self-fund, and I have no issue with that. Matter of fact, I hope at one point in time in my life that I can be a millionaire and to take whatever business I have and give it to my children as well. But the thing is, if you have that, I said this before, Luke 12:48, too much is given, much is required. And if you're going to be representing people, you got to represent all the people, and he's not doing that. And so, in order for me to really compete against someone like that, we have to have those funds coming in. So the big thing is go to moeforcongress.com, make a contribution, make it early before the end of the month, because the quarterly reports come out here. And we've only been raising money for 2 months, but it takes in all 3 months. And being able to put up a big number validates our campaign, that we can raise money, that brings in national donors that want to say, hey, this guy right here can unseat this incumbent. And so we want to make sure that we can do that. And then as we push out further into April and May, have more volunteers, and we can start spreading the word, because ultimately I don't see this campaign being about Moe Brown. This is a we campaign. The biggest thing they can do is go contribute right now, and that will help us continue to move this campaign forward. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, there it is, people. Moe Brown for Congress. Get involved with the campaign and be sure to donate. Thanks so much, Moe. All right, thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate it. Yeah, awesome.